So I'm heading down on Lake Cook Road, and I wonder if any of these the mayor, and if they do have aldermen in Buffalo Grove or Deerfield, they could break it down into aldermanic wards. Now, they're smaller, but there's, say, in Deerfield, there's 30,000 people. So you can break it down into an aldermanic ward of, say, 5,000 people and have 6 aldermen. Truly. And so you break it down in aldermanic wards, and you have 6 aldermen, and those 6 aldermen make up the voting base of their aldermanic ward. They're the representative for those 5,000 people. Truly. So you break it down into aldermanic zones, and you have 6 different representatives from 6 different areas of Deerfield. And they work together to figure out, trading back and forth, negotiating. One side of Deerfield wants something, another side of Deerfield wants something, and then the final decision or the tiebreaker would be the mayor. That would be 7. So there's odd numbers of how it has to go, or you end up in a stalemate. And you want things to win or lose, not end up in stalemate, but somebody can abstain from voting. Yep, you can abstain, just like they do in Congress, and it ends up in stalemates. So I'm not saying it won't end up in a stalemate. Somebody could abstain, not vote yes, not vote no, but just vote present. And that's what they do. And Bernie Sanders did that a lot, because a lot of Vermont is Republican. And so on hotbed issues, to get elected as a Democrat, anything that went against the LGBTQ or went against pro-abortion, meaning went against abortion, went pro-life, he would abstain. Now, he wouldn't tick off his Democratic base by voting with the Republicans on things that were against abortion or against the LGBTQ, but he also wouldn't vote for them. Bernie Sanders would just vote present. It's just like he did with the NRA, which was a Republican thing in Vermont. Because Vermont has lots of farmers, and farmers tend to be incredibly heavily Republicans, not Democratic. They don't believe in socialist benefits, farmers. They do get government subsidies here and there, but farmers are more worried about fair markets, bringing crops to market and other things like that. So they're very much concerned about pure water, clean air, good roadways to bring their goods to and from market. They're very concerned about the commodities exchanges, which you don't see them addressing, but Chicago has a very prominent commodities exchange. I think we're the world leader in commodities, actually, Chicago. We're the world leader in derivatives, but I think we're also the world leader in commodities. But you don't see any of them talking about that, and those are issues that directly affect farmers. They use commodities to hedge bets, to lock in pricing. Truly, farmers use futures, they use derivatives, and they use options on futures. Truly, futures gives more pure exposure. You got to come up with all the cash for a future. An option, all you have to do is come up with a percentage of the cash. But you say that options are cheaper. Not necessarily. Because remember, options only last for a certain period of time. And then you have to roll and renew. So a future can be very much cheaper if you're holding more long term. So you have to weigh out, do you want the future or want the option? But the thing about the future is you got to come up with all the cash right now. Where the option, you only come up with a percentage of the cash. So they don't tell you this, and Robert Schuller didn't tell you this in his thing on derivatives or the other derivatives people. But the cost of purchasing the option can get negative, and it would have been cheaper to buy the future. So depending on how long you're going to hold the position depends on whether you get a future or an option. Just to educate you, they don't do this. There's a trade-off. So don't think options, I'm going to get an option on the future and I'm going to make out with all this extra money. You could if it's a more near-term bet. Options are not long-term bets. And then once you get from futures, you get to custom or what they call synthetic products, and it's called forwards. Forwards go out to 5 years, and Chicago needs to start opening up an exchange-traded market for forwards, getting it out of the dark and getting the exchange in between. What does the exchange guarantee? The exchange is the middleman that guarantees both parties will get what they were going after. So if you're the one on the right side, you will get the money. The exchange guarantees the money. You don't have to worry about chasing the money. The exchange is the bank. So you don't have to worry about not getting delivery of the merchandise. The exchange guarantees the delivery of the merchandise. The exchange gets the premium, the VIG as they call it in gambling, for taking the risk that one side or another might not deliver. And the exchange also is like a dating service. They match up the different contracts, they put them out there so you can match out your desires with their desires. So they pair up people with opposite opinions. Truly. An opposite opinion might be you just want to hedge downside risk. You're not always looking to make money, meaning a profit on it. You're looking to minimize a loss, even with a forward or a future. It's not about making money. It's about paying an insurance premium, and an option is the same, an insurance premium to minimize any downside risk to changes in pricing. So, but the forwards, they go out to 5 years. They're different than the swaps. That's a separate market, and that's another derivatives market that Chicago can do as well. So they can expand the futures market because they don't have enough futures by far. And you can get into future ETFs and future, truly, the ETF would actually purchase futures, or the closed-end fund would actually purchase futures. Now, futures expire, and they'll have to purchase new ones, but they can focus on a specific area of futures. It's different like buying a stock. These things have an expiration date. Even swaps, they have expiration dates. You can make a fund that specializes in swaps or specializes in forwards, but they have expiration dates. So you focus on an area. Truly. And if you want to be a hedge fund, you can be a hedge fund that just does general futures or general options, and they already have options one. But again, you're not in any specific category. You do sector rotation as a hedge fund. Sector rotation. You move from one sector to another, and now you disclose out to your holders as they do. Now the exchanges, you're required as a mutual fund every 6 months. So you have 6 months leadway, meaning you can do a trade like that whole site that tracks Warren Buffett. Well, you don't find out what Warren Buffett does for 6 months out. That's when they have to publish what they did with the trades. So you get none of the near term, but you know 6 months out what the position of the fund is. So what Morningstar does, if anyone doesn't know, they don't trade on inside information. So Morningstar's results are 6 months old. They're 6 months old. They're not current positions. Morningstar does not know the current position of any fund. Neither does Lipper or any of them. But no one tells you that with their system either. That they only giving you 6 months old. And I'm talking about funds. They know where a current stock is because it's published. So it's different in that. But again, they're 3 months out on their quarterly report. So they're still not giving you near-term information. The closest you can get on a stock is 3 months. It's quarterly report. And not everything is published in the quarterly report. There's different requirements that are meant for the quarterly than the annual. The annual is full disclosure. So again, you're not getting everything on the quarterly report, but you're getting a fair amount of information, but it is a smaller, more concise report. And again, it has to go with quarterly taxes and so on and so forth. But the whole point is, as close as you can get to information on a stock without being an insider is 3 months. The closest you can get on a mutual fund is 6 months.